All right, like I was saying, it's time for the online dinner party, and we've got a lot of great guests that are scheduled, as we oftentimes do, and everything like that. So, get ready to bring in our first guest and see what he's got on his world and everything like that. I hope that it's a lot cooler where he is, but we're going to find out in that space because the weather is getting a little bit ridiculous here in North Carolina. I think that we were pushing near 90 degrees and everything like that. And last time I checked, the weather forecast said April. It didn't say July or August, but I'm gonna find out what it's doing in where Walter's at and everything, Walter Ruskin and everything like that, because definitely the weather is doing some crazy things here in our neck of the woods, and it's been doing that for a while. And of course, I work at the Hayti Heritage Center, and usually I'll be there over the weekends because that's the cultural arts center that has a lot of activities. As a matter of fact, there's going to be a play about none other than Brother Youssef that'll be coming up very shortly, and all along those lines. That'll be actually at the end of the month, and then there's one at the on this weekend that'll be dealing with some gentrification stuff and all along those lines. And the folks from Grant Street will be doing that one and everything like that. So there's a lot of things going on in the world and around the world. And of course, we're always glad to talk to our guests and find out what they've got happening in their world and everything like that. So I'm gonna bring in Walter, see what he's got happening in his world, and hopefully it's a lot better weather-wise than it is here and everything. Because like I said, I stepped outside yesterday and I stepped outside briefly today, and I'm going like it's 90 degrees. Last time I checked, the weatherman said that it was April, and the definitely the calendar said it was April, but it sure feels like July or August to me and everything like that. So I'm not sure where you are and whether the weather is doing the same. Because a friend of mine, I was helping them with their podcast, and one of them was in New York City, and they were saying it was like 73 degrees there, and I think another one was in Chicago, and it was like 80 degrees there. So I guess this whole notion of global warming is real and everything like that. But I was just wondering how you're doing today and what's on your mind and what's going on in your world, because a lot's happening in the world, and I know that you've got a lot on your mind as well. But definitely, this weather is just something that has caught me off guard the last couple of days, and I know a lot of people are uh, doing that last minute rush that a lot of people do every year because today is a tax deadline day and everything like that. So I do know that some people are rushing to get their taxes done if they haven't already done them and everything like that. Either that or trying to file to get an extension and everything like that. But a lot of people are thinking about that whole notion as well. But definitely, I know that you've been involved in a lot of things with acting and everything like that. So definitely, how are you doing today, and how is the weather treating you where you are?
Well, I am doing fantastic. As you can see, I'm inside the space capsule, the Artemis, right off the coast of San Diego, California. The weather is approximately 72 degrees, like it is in my head, just cool and comfortable all the time. Um, yeah, that's the weather. The weather report here in San Diego is 72, and in June it's just gloomy and 72. In July it's gray and 72. In August it's 1,000. So anyway, that's the weather in San Diego. And where are you in North Carolina? You're in Durham,
I'm
California.
in Durham, North Carolina. I'm in Durham, which is the home of Duke University, the home of North Carolina Central University, and partially the home of the Research Triangle Park, because part of the Research Triangle Park is also in Wake County as well. But yeah, I'm right here in the heart of an educational area and everything like that. So definitely a
No,
lot.
and you're in the arts. Is that correct? Is that what you
I
do?
am in the arts, definitely very much in the creative arts. I've done a lot of things like we and me and a friend for 10
I just lost you. You just paused.
years.
I'm doing this with my hands in case I'm pixelating. It's like you're tripping. No, no. Look, I'm pixelating. Streamers. Can you see me? I can't hear you. But I'll be patient for the buffering. Oh, yeah, we'll just go. I'll put hold music on. Do 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 do. Oh, I'm the only one in the room again. Well, maybe I'm live. I don't know. My name is Walter. Welcome to Dinner Party. We've had a weather report all the way from Durham, North Carolina. I'm here in Southern California, San Diego. I'm in a place called Carlsbad. And if you want to know what the location is, 33 north and 7 degrees west, I believe. Who knows? So this would be a great time to tell a story. Would you like to hear a story? Would you like to hear a story?
Sure.
All right. So when I was a little boy, I wasn't tall. I don't know.
Is there a check?
Well, I'm the only person in the room, but I'm live for the last 5 minutes. So I could be here all by myself. We can do sunglass tricks. See?
You don't need
I don't know what that does.
it.
Shall we read poetry? Oh, there he is. He's back. The host is back.
Yeah, I'm back and everything like that. So I know that you were talking about the whole notion of being in San Diego and being in Artemis. So what was your take on the whole trip with Artemis and everything like that? Because I know a lot of people were very excited, and we haven't been in space travel for decades and everything like that. So I don't know if you were a space junkie, because I used to love the old science fiction shows. I was a Star Trek and Star Wars fan and everything like that. And of course, I was missing us going onto the moon and dreaming of going to Venus and the other planets, and even going beyond Pluto, even though I understand Pluto's not a planet anymore and everything like that. But I was just wondering your take on this whole notion of space travel.
Well, first off, I heard Pluto is back in planet Grace because I think it was grandfathered in. So there was a big Pluto movement, seriously. So I think Pluto, since it orbits, it's still considered a planet, but depending on who you're speaking with, but it's more ice and meteor-like. So depending if you're new school or old school, almost like the Lululemon idea is, do fish still exist? You'd have to ask David Starr Jordan. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Do I like space? Yeah, because I have a lot of it between my ears. But yeah, I was excited that we were going to space. I mean, why not? It shows man at its best, engineering, intelligence. We get an opportunity to dismiss the fact that we didn't go to space in the past. I mean, I like Stanley Kubrick, but I don't know if he necessarily, pretended to have a moon landing. I don't really believe in conspiracy theories. I do believe in things are awkward sometimes, but I don't know if everything's a conspiracy, because I can't even conspire against myself. But that's another random rant.
You can't conspire against yourself and everything like that. Just really quickly, because I know that you are a big fan, and even some of your movies deal with this, of the notion of satire and sarcasm. And I'm a big fan of satire and sarcasm. We used to even write some books and everything like that. I remember one play I wrote a long time ago. It might have been in my college days, where the whole notion, and maybe it was definitely pre and way before Trump and everything like that, but it was the notion of there being an insane person that was being assessed while he was in the insane asylum and all along those lines. And at the end of the day, he was given all the things that were going on insane. And this was in the 70s and the 80s in politics at that time and everything along those lines. And so his thesis was basically that if he was the insane one, what was the matter with the folks that were in government and the rest of the world? That they probably were the ones that needed to be in the insane asylum and not him, and all along those lines. So I just wondered, how long have you been into satire and sarcasm, and your thoughts around some of these notions? Because I know that a lot of times it can get you in trouble, because I know it got Stephen Colbert in trouble, and he's got some other late night shows in trouble as well.
I think probably the first time I got into satire was the first time I went to catechism. That made me laugh. That's good. I remember going to altar boy school, and me and Jason Delisio were there, and we were the only, we'll call us raised a little harder than the rest of the kids in our class. And the deacon came out and said, "Young man, we're about to show you Christ." And he says, Jason raised his hands. He goes, "Where do you have Christ?" He goes, "We have him in this box." And Jason lost his mind. He says, "My mom's got to work 2 jobs to send me to this school, and you got Christ in a box. What is wrong with you people?" And I was like, "Well, Jason, I guess we're not going to get the free wine after all." But I don't know. I don't know if sarcasm is my mantra, but I do like thoughts, and I like it when people think. And I think sarcasm, at some level, keeps us honest with the lies we tell ourselves. And what I mean by that is it's just that little reality check that we are people. I have my ideology is that we're creatures that have the ability to reason. I don't think we're reasonable creatures. I think it's neat that when we get to tap into reason and we get to watch someone else use their reasoning skills, how far is it diluted and how far are we all literate in the same delusion is kind of how I say it. But I'm not a nihilist. I do believe in structure. I do believe that there is a reality. I lean towards more objectivism, that there is something real to lean against. I try to stay away from mystics, even though I do wake up and I find myself praying every day. I still pray in the hopes that someone will answer me, or at least give me the comfort to at least do the right thing if I decide to do the wrong thing. But in the sense of plays and sarcasm, I don't have as much fun in it as I used to. I think there was a delusion that I had that these were going to be the. It's funny, and I'll give you an example. For a while, I was an independent contracting reporter for the San Diego Community News Group, and I had the opportunity back when what was his name? Mittens. What was his name? What was the political guy's name? He did the Olympics. He's from Utah. Please, somebody help me. Anybody remember him? He's Mormon. He's fun. They called him Mittens. Mitt Romney. Thank you, Walter. Thank you for helping yourself out on that one.
Okay. Yeah, Mitt Romney.
So they were doing the debates, and I went there to the Republican convention, and I do. There's a thing there if you ever want to watch it. It's called the Disneyland for Republicans, the Reagan Library. But what I found out is it was an interesting experience because the difference between what I heard and by the time I got home, what the news was telling me I heard, that was an interesting change. The other thing I found amazing is I said at one point, and I'm getting back to the acting here in a second, I said, I bet the Democratic Party is so much more fun than this one. And the guy looked at me, who was an old news guy, goes, no, these guys are fun. The other ones, they're way too uptight. And I said, no, they got to be liberal and fun. He goes, no, man. He says, I used to live in San Francisco and I loved it. I go, why? Because they had liberal mindsets. I go, yeah. He said, that's great until you don't agree with them. And that's what I found the acting world to be more and more about. It's okay as long as you agree with them. And it's a different kind of, I don't want to use the word censorship, but mindset or discipline in what they find appropriate. And I find that theology diminishing to the human condition of what they're trying to pretend to express. That was quite a sentence, Walter. Not all the time. I mean, you find whack jobs like myself touching the sun, but when you're having arguments about fictional characters and what their backstory is, I think we've lost touch with reality. I mean, they're just pretend. And one of my favorite urban legends is, I guess, Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman are doing Marathon Man. And Dustin Hoffman is coming out of method acting and method. And I guess he was sleeping on the street or something. And Laurence Olivier looked at him and goes, hey, kid, it's just acting. I don't pretend to. I said, I don't go do Nazi things. I'm just playing one on TV. And I just was like, yeah, we're just pretending. We're just adults or just children in adults' bodies pretending to be these characters. Now, we can talk about realism and writing lines and being character stuff. I mean, those things have validity. But the reality is it's a lie. It's just play and entertainment. And we tell stories, and how we learn lessons is through narratives. And that's okay. But just, I don't know.
Yeah, but you say something in my mind as you were saying that, Walter. Well, a couple of things that even have been touched on in this show and other shows as well is there's a lot of people, including some scientists and doctors, that feel that we have gotten away from the notion of play and creativity with our kids. I know that even when I don't have any kids of my own, but I have two nephews. One of them is going to go off to college next year and everything. But I remember when they were very young, like babies and everything, my dad took them out, showed them Mother Nature, and was having fun with them at that age and everything like that. Now we hear about all these kids that are attached, and I'm not saying my nephews aren't, to their devices and everything like that. But I'm wondering, do you feel that we sometimes are discouraging our folks, particularly our young folks, from being involved in the play and creativity? I mean, you're in the creative field, you're an actor. I was just meeting with a friend.
No, actually, I would actually rail against and push it the other way. But I think you said something, if I heard you probably, they're connected too much to their devices. So children have the capacity to learn, read, write, and do arithmetic. They have the ability to think and reason. That's why they're little people. They can think. And if we train them,
Amen.
I'm using the word train them, expose them to big ideas, they get to be good adults with big ideas. If we train them that everything is just emotions, feelings, and Bluey wants to let you know that it's okay not to destroy the park, which is good, but there's more to life than just these feelings. And so when you say the word play, I see the word play as in physical activity outside, creativity, our gang style mentality, meaning let's go make a fort. Let's have bad rules that we can't let this kid in because, he smells or he has red hair. And then, that's not true either. But that's what I see is play, is the actual interaction with other human beings, not being told what to constantly do or think. And I believe that when they say there's not enough play, that's maybe what they're angling at. I think there's also too much mysticism brought to children, too much Harry Potter, too much sitting without thinking versus doing. And I believe there's another notion of like, I'm very physical, meaning like walking is important. I was speaking with someone just yesterday. Your soul is in your feet. So if you walk, you get to identify who you are. Your writing is in your hand. Your hand can't lie to you. But being force-fed immediate gratification, even as an adult, I have to, like, I have someone who helps me with all this interneting stuff, and I used to do it all myself. It became, it draws on you. It gnaws on your soul. You're missing the connection. It asks so much time and dedication just so that someone will look at you, so I can get a like, so I can get a hit of dopamine. We're doing something a little bit different. We're creating. We're expanding our brand of keynote speaking, bringing play to humans, I guess, for another lack of term. Either it be children and or adults. We also help with people that are looking to expand their careers, and we have a team that's there to help them with interviewing processes and resume building. So that's where I like living in. I like the idea of play, but I think it's defined very emotionally versus very cognitively. I think that's my point. At least in this interview, at this stage, when I look at this in 20 years and I go, what kind of crazy stuff was I saying? I'm like, oh, that's what you felt that day. Like, okay.
That's what you thought that day and everything along those lines. I saw that your own people in your press releases and everything were talking about your own ability as a great comedian. I'm a big fan of comics. Actually, one of my good friends wrote the film This Christmas, and he considers himself a comedian. I remember when we actually brought Martin Lawrence, and he was remembering this a while back before Martin Lawrence was famous, to a German Oktoberfest and everything like that. Because he tried to get him to a high school, and they basically wanted to restrict what he could do in terms of cussing. And I think my friend Ronnie was like, "You do know this is Martin we're talking about. He's going to cuss and everything along those lines and everything like that." So instead of getting to the high school, there was a Oktoberfest going on, a big German celebration. I think Old Heidelberg might have been the restaurant at that time. So he literally had Martin along with Ken Young, because Ken Young at the time was I think he was at UNC, because he went to both UNC and to get his medical degrees and everything like that, and all in that space. But I want to say that he was the second act, and Terry Tufts was a local comedian, and there might have been a fourth one that was an Andrew Dice Clay type and everything like that. But even to this day, Martin tells Ronnie that, I will never forget that day, because you're probably the only person that had me outside in a tent, because it was a big tent that was covering half of a road and all along those lines and everything like that. So I was just wondering what has been some strange comedy shows that you've been part of? Because, like I said, Ronnie still talks about that, and apparently Martin still thinks about it, and that happened probably like some 20 years ago and everything like that.
Well, probably my weirdest gig was when during COVID they were doing Zoom comedy shows,
Mhm.
and
I remember those.
I was on a Goldwing, and I was driving to Idaho, and I did an entire set at 110 miles an hour on a motorcycle. So I would say that one was a little different. I don't think most comics have that one. I don't think most comics can say, I remember doing my set on a motorcycle Goldwing going to Idaho. So that was kind of a neat one because it has a mouthpiece that's in. Yeah. Anyway, so I did a comedy set on a motorcycle. So that would be different.
That would be an unusual one. My brother actually is the co-president of a slingshot club, which is those famous three-wheelers that are popular throughout the country, and he's also fighting MS, and definitely we lost my aunt many years ago to that same disease, but he's doing well and is doing good in terms of maintaining his health and all along those lines. But maybe he can get you to do a comedy show on a slingshot show because they were doing a fundraiser. It was like a food rodeo and everything like that. So maybe that could be something you could do.
I would love to do that. I'd like to come out, see the Bull Durhams, come out and do a sidecar sideshow. That's what we'll call it, sidecar sideshow with Walter Ruskin. And then maybe Martin Lawrence could drive the motorcycle for me and put me right into a wall. And it'll be like a Laurel and Hardy slipping on a banana vaudeville-ish comedy show. It'll be a throwback, and it'll be like, and then it'll shoot off into space like the Artemis. I'll go around the moon and come back. I think that's just like that. See how
that sounds like a great idea. I'm liking this. I'm liking this idea. So this could be a whole notion and everything like that. Would you do a comedy show in space to like these four people?
Why would I
invited you? So would you actually go into?
Yes, I would go to space. I mean, if they said, "Yeah, look, like we're going to pay you a fee, and you're going to get to go to space. You get to be." If they asked me to go to space and they didn't ask Chuck Yeager to go to space, I gotta go to space. I mean, I gotta go to space. I didn't break the sound barrier. I'm just sarcastic. Like, yeah,
I don't know. Did you break the sound barrier?
No, I know.
Maybe.
But I don't know if they'll let me back in. I don't know if I have the right stuff. You gotta come. You gotta come back. But yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean, I'm gonna die anyway. Might as well die in space. But I guess I am grounded on Earth. We'll have to look about that later on. Am I my own molecule? Anyway, go back to you, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're in space and everything along those lines. Now, Germany has all kinds of interesting things that take place in our town and everything like that. So one of the other things that took place recently, I think it was not last weekend, but the weekend before, was, and I don't know if this would be something that you as a comedy person would participate in and all along those lines, but we have, a lot of people are into cosplay, they're into a lot of other things. But last week we had the furries in town. I think it was Be Whiskered was this particular furry group. So we had people that were running around town dressed as cats and dressed as tigers and dressed as other things that were there. So would you do a comedy show as a furry?
No. And I'll tell you why. I don't mind kinky. Kinky's fine. Kinky's fine. I like to keep it in my kingdom phylum, though.
I understand. You want to keep it where you want to keep it. You don't want to have it out all that as a public.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd have to be so in love for a woman to look at me and go, "Would you dress up like a ferret for me?" I'd be like, "God, baby, I love you." I mean, it wouldn't just jump into ferret. I'd have to take some time. I'd probably start out maybe with little mouse ears. I don't know. I don't. The furries. Oh my God.
Like I said, I was shocked, but they were having.
That would be an example of missing reality. That would be an example of where we are no longer on planet Earth. That would be an example of maybe unless these are all scientists at such levels, like they're all putting together logarithms all day. They're doing 9 to the 15th square, and they're coming out with 205 billion matrices in a moment. I only know that math because I did it this morning. Then I would say, yes, you need to release, and this is healthy. But if you're just got done watching, another 15 hours of Harry Potter again, and now you're going to go be a space rabbit or whatever you're going to be, I think you need to go to therapy. But, that's just me being judged. But that's just me being like, Edmund Burke, just kind of conservative. I think there's a great idea for change. I think change is great, but Let's not just change because we had a great idea 1 minute. Why don't we just let that, ruminate for a while? Why don't we just think about our actions? And I'm a guy who'll jump off a mountain without thinking. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you just got to go, that one doesn't feel right. But,
But speaking of jumping off mountains without thinking, I have a lady friend that we're still friends with. She was a romantic partner and everything like that. But she tried to get me to go skydiving, and to me, skydiving is a something you don't do, because I think that the planes were meant to take you from point A to point B, not to fall out of it. Everything. Now that's just my opinion. Some of the other people that are more adventuristic might be into skydiving, and like I said, she has even had these workshops where she's getting, she's like, what do you call it, storyboarding, and getting people's theater works into development. So she's helping them develop their works and everything like that. She's got this program called Sips and Scripts, and all along those lines. But I was just wondering, is there something that is in that adventurous experience for you, or would you be sitting there trying to do whitewater rafting, which I have thought about, or going skydiving? Because like I said, to me, planes are not something you're supposed to fall out of.
Well, first off, my first thought was swimming is just fancy drowning. And so skydiving is life preservation with a parachute. The question that you're asking is my life worth seeing if this parachute works? I don't know. Now, I think if the plane's going down, yeah, but is it a training session for future flights if they're going to crash? Here, when I'm on a commercial jet, all that falls is an air mask, not a parachute. So I would say no. I'm most likely not out of fear, mostly out of weight, because every time I'm in weight to go skydiving, I never have the money to go skydiving. And then I get some money, so I start eating more, and then I'm too fat to go skydiving. So maybe it's my own self-preservation with my diet, because it's feast or famine over here in comedy land. Back to you, sir.
No, it's definitely feast or famine in comedy land.
Oh, white water rafting. I've
White
done
water rafting.
White water rafting. I've done that before. White water rafting is fun. I enjoy that.
That sounds like that would be fun and everything. You talked about this notion of comics, and it's something else that's come up on this show quite often and everything like that. Because I've got friends that are in the music business and artists, and there's this notion of the starving artist, and why would anybody go into these fields, and all along those lines. And a lot of folks, including myself, have to do side gigs. I sometimes grade test papers for a testing company. I've got friends that drive for DoorDash and Uber and everything like that. So what is your thoughts when people are telling you that they're going to be doing comedy for life, and they're not going to have to do these side gigs and everything like that? So what do you tell folks that are thinking about they want to go into comedy like you, and they're like, I'm just going to do comedy, and I'm only going to do comedy. I'm not going to have to go to work for DoorDash.
Who am I to step on their dream? I say, good. And when you get booked, make sure you bring me too, because I need a gig. I want them to succeed. I want them never to have to work for DoorDash again. I want HBO screaming to get them on set, so I can go, hey, you need an opener? Because that's what I want. I don't want to associate the guy who could just do DoorDash. I don't mind getting free fries, don't get me wrong. But if this guy's booked every week, I want to hang out with that guy. If that's his dream and he's on fire, let's tie ourselves to that trailer. Absolutely. I mean, let's not drag him down. But my job isn't to step on people's dreams. Furry's dreams, yes, I'll step on them. Obviously, I did that tonight. But
well, you stepped on the furry's dreams. But speaking of stepping on dreams, what do you say? Because you kind of alluded to it and everything, to those folks that are not wanting to, are trying to find ways to kill your dreams and everything like that. Because I do see that sometimes in the art world, where there are people that are the dream stealers, as a friend of mine calls them, and everything like that. So I'm sure you had your dream stealers, and one of the things we talk about on this show oftentimes is that whole notion of the self-defeating conversations that we have with ourselves, the imposter syndrome.
I am my own dream stealer. I am my own dream stealer, and I will be vindicated by someone else who also thinks that I can't do it. Now, I'll say I can do things. Don't get me wrong. I'll try and I'll do this. But I have been an actor at different levels and different writings. And I went to a script writing thing this weekend. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because it kind of came into fruition. So I'm going to have to go back a little bit to give you some history of how my brain works. So this last year, I read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Does that make me a great person? No. but also read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Now, does that make me a great person? Probably. But she has a character, and his name is Howard Rourke, and he's an architect. And the whole gist of it is he's not going to do what the other architects are doing because he's going to do it his way, much like Jonathan Siegel Livingston. There's a lot of characters that are just going to do it my way, everyone Frank Sinatra. But he says something, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I don't build buildings for me. I build them for myself. And people will come and buy from me because I build what I want. Now, that as an artist or a comedian or a writer gave me permission, for better lack of terms. I don't need your permission. I don't perform for you. If you don't like me, that's fine, but I perform for me. I perform in a world that I want to see. I'm reflecting what I want to see in the world, not what the audience does. Here's the story that I'm going to give you. A man writes this story, and it's about the Russian mafia. It's a little slight comedy. There's a baker, and it's cute. It's funny. It's popping, and it's moving great. One of the lines is that the mobster gets hit in the head with a bat. When he goes up the stairs, and the wife opens the door and says, well, what's your name? He goes, Ivan, Irving, Ike. And then he says, I like Ike. Now, I messed up the lines because it was written better than that. But when he said, I liked Ike, and the way he delivered it was a natural laugh because the guy paused right, he held, whatever it was, it struck us as funny. Now the notes, the guy goes, you know, that reference to I like Ike is just, it's too old. Audiences won't get it. And the guy's like trying to defend me. I think I'll move it. And I'm like, you don't write for other people. You know what? I don't need your permission. If I want to write a whole story of obscure references, I'll be Ulysses, and all of a sudden I'll be James Joyce, and I'll be a genius. So that's where I get mad at myself. You know, I've had good directors, I've had garbage directors. And what's the difference? Well, when I first started acting, I had a director, and he's like, you know, I know. He said something to me. He said, Walter, I promise I won't make you look bad. That's my job, is to make sure that you don't look stupid. And sometimes when you're doing things, you look stupid. I could identify with that. I understood that. I trusted him. I did what he asked me to do. I've had other directors tell me I'm supposed to be a snake when I wanted to be a Spider-Man or something. I'm just giving ridiculous examples. Right. I didn't trust them, and it was just a weird experience. But my best director I ever had, his name is David Stein. And I work with him occasionally. He just calls me up and he gives me lines and I do whatever. And the point of the story is I'm on stage with him once and he gives this woman, I don't know, about 5 minutes worth of notes. And then he looks at me and goes, what did you do, Walter? I said, I did bad acting, which is why you had to give her 5 minutes worth of notes. And he goes, exactly. So let's not do that again, shall we? I said, absolutely, sir. That's trust. That's understanding the creature in front of you, understanding that even though in rehearsal at times I'll use the word buffoonery for better lack of terms, or seem unfocused or seem ridiculous, I know what we're doing, and I'm either flushing it out, trying something out, not for the sake of to ruin stuff. It's because I'm trying to own these words. I'm trying to own it. And so when it happens, it's fun. And what he lets me do, which is what I really learned, is I get to listen. And my best acting is when I'm listening, because I don't have to say a lot, but I can respond with just the lines that are on the paper and be perfect. And what I mean by perfect is it's a perfect response to what happened. And if I respond to what they're saying, now I'm blessed because I have an actor that is now feels trusted, and I'm working with someone who, no matter what they give me, I can hear them and I can catch it, and they'll catch what I'm giving them. And that's when it's just fun. So it
sounds like it.
Yeah. And so that's the big thing that and even in the sales training that I do, even though I speak a lot, like I talk a lot, but I do hear more than I say. I can hear nuances. I don't say I hear blinks. That just sounds ridiculous, but I'm very attuned with what's happening. And then if I catch something, I ask again, is that what you're saying? Or is that what you were asking? And so I know we went in a lot of different directions there, but the reality
one of those directions you've got me got a lot of thoughts, and one of them we talk about on this show quite often, and it's a trait that a lot of people think that they're good at, but they're not that great at. And I've been in journalism ever since I went to Marquette and everything like that. But I was wondering your thoughts around, are we as a society going around doing a lot of not true listening and everything like that? Because there's that old saying that you have two ears for a reason and one mouth for a reason and everything like that, because we don't do as much true listening as we should and everything like that. So I know that that's been a topic on some of our news shows as well as on some of our other shows, as well as to whether we are actually listening or whether we're actually just trying to hear ourselves talk.
Yes. First thing you have to do is look at yourself. So I am a victim. I am not a victim is the wrong word in this case, but I am victimized sometimes. But I am guilty of sometimes not listening. And I just told you I listen a lot, but I am guilty of it as well. I got excited when you started speaking, but I had to slow down again and listen to everything that you also had to say. So that's also part of the skill set of understanding when you're getting out of your comfort zone. But I'll give you an example of conversation and educated debate. We're going to go back to Ayn Rand real quick, because this is one of my favorites, one of my recent favorites. She's talking to a bunch of executives. And if you don't know who she is, she came up with objectivism as a philosophy, and there's more. It's interesting, but she has these great writings where they have the transcripts of her speeches, and she's talking to these gentlemen, and she's talking about the American Association of Free Thought, something like that.
Right.
And she starts describing it as this commercial of the most ugliest people that you've ever seen in your life. So she starts right off the top with, I don't care what you think. And I'm like, yeah. Then she says, then you got these people that say, I like country music. I like, what is it? I like rock and roll. And she goes, I don't care. I'm from Russia. And you want to know something? We're allowed to like music too and have different opinions. You know what we're not allowed to have? Different opinions of the government. Why isn't it the free thought of thinking and having a commercial? How do we discuss abortion without punching our fellow neighbor? That's her quote. And I'm like, that's rad. And this is back in the late 60s, early 70s that she's having these discussions. Why aren't we talking about things that are real? Now, I'll go back to today. I think you're talking about today's society where we're able to think. I don't think we're able to think. And this is where I'm now doing a lot of reading of Western philosophical ideas, because I'm in the Western world. That's where I communicate. I'm not against Eastern philosophy. I'm not saying Western is, it's not an East-West Coast thing, craziness. It's just, this is how my brain thinks. So why are these things there? So the argument by a gentleman by Mortimer J. Adler, okay, he created these books with Britannica called The Great Ideas. There's 102 ideas. If you want to look him up on the web, on the YouTube, you can watch him. He's got 52 different shows you can watch, from thinking to government. The point I'm making is that a lot of the things that we ingest is fast and talking points. And even though we think we're subjectively monitoring what's going on, we're really just taking the next talking point that solidifies our belief. Once I said earlier, I said a lot of times I'm looking for someone to derail my success, because somewhere deep inside I'm finding that person who says, oh, you can't do that. Yeah, I can't do that. You're right. And so I'm just giving that an example. I believe we are what we eat. I think a lot of what we eat is the information that we're taking in. So in that vein, in that idea, and closing out this, are we able to communicate clearly? I say most thought is coming off me trying to convince you that you are wrong. That's not a discussion. I was at a dinner. I went to a dinner party the other day. Two fat men. It almost looked like an old, the Gilded Age, with like who do you have? You had Standard Oil, and you had J.P. Rockefeller. There's a cartoon of all the oligarchs sitting above Congress saying they'll do what we want. Well, this is the same thing, but with thought. We have, and I'm just saying visually, it how it looked to me. Right? Like, oh, this is beautiful, because you have two grotesque, huge, large mammals, both just chomping down as much as they want. One saying the government takes too much, and the other one saying, no, corporations take too much. But neither of them wanted to hear it, neither of them wanted to listen, but they both pretended that they did. And by the end of it, they were screaming at each other, and one walked out. Now, that's where I think thought has been eradicated. Because if you say something and I'm responding to it, because that's a response, it's a response. I think the social contract we have now with people is me versus you. I believe in independence of thought. I believe in what's the word I'm looking for? An agency of human ideas. But it's not just what I want, is where am I in reality? And of course, well, where is reality? And that's where I think here's where I'll leave it like this. And this is where it's hard, meaning hard, like I'm really working at this stuff. Not like I'm doing the work, not therapeutically, but like how my brain, where it went. Okay. Because I've been exposed to these ideas. When we were kids, we had sentences, right? We used to diagram sentences. Why? Well, it's basic logic. Right. Steve is a football player. Okay. What is Steve? The subject is a linking verb, right? And a football player, right? A football player. So that's the predicate of the sentence. So if P is Q, so is that fact? Steve is a unicorn. Is that possible? Well, is it a unicorn named Steve? Are unicorns real? You can start asking questions. Now everything is Steve feels like a unicorn. Steve feels like a football player. Well, where's reality? Reality is in the feelings. And I think that's where the muddled line comes into. And that's what I'm fighting against in my own understanding of my fellow man, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How much do you think ego plays a role as well? Because as I was reading your bio and everything like that, I know that you quote yourself, which a lot of people don't do. I sometimes quote myself and everything like that. But I love this quote about you where you say that Walter Ruskin is a San Diego-based actor who plays charismatic leading man as well as a fun-loving comedic role. So you're basically saying that, and I love this quote even better, which is Walter will be the greatest comedian actor of our time. When you see him on stage, your life will change for the better or the worse and everything like that. Walter Ruskin. So you quoted yourself and everything like that. So how much does ego play into some of these conversations in terms of success?
It's a very beautiful, diamond faceted question. So let's start with the self-quoting of ourselves. I'm a big fan of Ricky Henderson. I don't think if you can talk to yourself in the third person, I don't think you've really experienced life. However, is ego, I think the word ego is misused in our society. And I'm going to get a little dark here because not everything's always peaches and cream. So about a year and a half ago, I was on the sad part of life. I wanted to exit. I wanted to do an early exit. I didn't want a refund. I wanted out. And that's kind of why I started getting into the thoughts and started thinking more and more. Some backstory: I've been sober for 10.5 years, and twice while in my sobriety, I wanted to exit Earth. Is it because I couldn't have a drink? No, it's because some of the things in which, and it's too long for this interview. There's some thoughts that I had that weren't connecting correctly.
Right.
But while I was on the ground, I'm not going to curse her, but I just basically said, "Who's running this show?" And I said, "This guy." And I said, "Well, fire him. He sucks. I'm back." I got off the floor. I called up Kaiser. I did some things. I've taken medicine. I've gone to therapy, blah, blah, blah. But the point of ego, and this is where I learned about the brain and the ego. Because when you go to, I was in a group of recovery, and some of the things they say at these meetings are like, your brain is not your friend. You can't trust your thoughts, and your ego is not your enemy. Now, once or twice you say something like that, you understand in context. But you start saying things like that, you don't start trusting your thoughts. And that's not what the world's about. And when you think your ego is not your amigo, that means that you don't think you're worth it. So I say my ego saved my life, and my brain was trying to kill me because I was in so much pain and didn't know what to do. So what that means to me is that the brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's designed to keep me from pain no matter what. Hopefully it's not at the point where I want to hurt myself. But if I choose that, there's something inside me that's deeper that says, no, you're worth more than that. And that's why the ego is important. Now, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're an egomaniac. Just because you have confidence with it doesn't mean you're an egomaniac. You know, that's part of where altruism is sometimes bad. Like, you know, do random acts of kindness. I don't need to do random acts of kindness. I don't need to tell people that I'm kind. I don't need to give anybody my resume of humanity. But I am a nice man, and I do nice things, and I don't do it because I don't want to humble brag, because it's nonsense. Either you're real or you're not real, and you're on the scale in some way, shape, or form. And if you wake up and you want to do more for others, do more for others. And if you don't. But don't sacrifice yourself because of some theological idea that you think that you're doing it wrong. And that's, and what am I? So that's when I say, is there too much ego? So let's go back to the conversation. Is it the ego that's keeping them from being able to hear other things? No. Actually, I don't think the ego is even involved. I think it's the brain being pre-programmed to survive. I don't even think you're in the ego. I don't even think you're into something self-conscious with them, because they're not even thinking, they're just responding. It's like, it's almost like when you watch The Karate Kid and Miyagi shows him how to wax on and wax off. He's done the motion so many times. He's not even thinking. So when you're watching these debates, it's a dance. It's not even a thought. It's just the way the brain is replasticity and structured itself to believe what the thoughts they have are real, and anything against it is not helpful. How is that? Is that too short of an answer?
No, that's a good answer. I love that answer and everything along those lines. I know that a lot of times people also, when they look at news coverage and everything like that, they're seeing all these news people that are supposedly perfect and everything. And we know that there's images within the news media, and sometimes they're only allowing certain folks to stay on the news, particularly some of our lady friends, when they get to a certain age and they are ousted out and all along those lines. But I just wanted your thoughts, because I did look at one of your videos, and I guess it was in 2011, you had the Ugly News Team. So I'm trying to figure out what this Ugly News Team is all about.
So there was a gentleman, his name is Rod Luck. He's no longer with us. He passed away. He was a newscaster here in San Diego. He got in trouble. Substance abuse and some other things. That's not me to disrail him. He's trying to build his life back together. So he and I started working together, and he made this comment of how he's not allowed to get a job anymore because he's too old.
Right.
But when you start talking to older news, and I'm using the word older because they're older news people, and then a news weather guy called, like, I lost my job because I don't got big tits or something like that. I go, I got it. He goes, what? I said, we should have a newscast with crusty old news guys, just like Oscar Madison from The Odd Couple, and you guys are real news guys, but you're ugly. You're like, you don't even care anymore. You don't even have to shower to go on set because you're just going to tell us the actual news. And so I came up with this concept called the Ugly News Team. Now ego gets in the way. I'm not ugly. I go, Rod, it doesn't matter if you're ugly. I'm not going in front of anything that says ugly. So I took the idea myself. Now, I went with ugly because we're ugly because we're not professional. We're ugly because we don't have a budget. We're ugly because we're stretching ourselves as far as we can. And that's how the Ugly News Team was germinated and then redefined so that I could use it. But I still think if you have ugly, old, retired people, I think they should have their own thing called the Ugly News Team, and I think they have a lot to contribute.
No, I like that idea, because I know that I was a big fan of the certain children's shows, even as an adult, like the Electric Company and Zoom, and even the Muppets. And I love those two grumpy old men that are like the critics and everything like that. They kind of like remind me of Roger and Ebert, but they're even worse than Roger and Ebert, that are oftentimes there commenting on the plays that they are seeing in Muppet Land. I can't remember the names of the characters, but I just crack up every time that I see them, because they are totally hilarious and everything like that.
Correct. So, not correct. Yes, but that's kind of how the Ugly News Team came about. It was a fun.
I love that idea.
And I got to go everywhere. And I was a one-man filming crew. Like, if you ever look at any of this stuff, like I got a press pass to a Charger game. I'm running a fixed camera lens, and I'm on the field interviewing players. And I'm like, I hope I'm in focus. And I got lucky, and I was. So it was a fun time. I did drink more back then, so probably had a lot of less, a lot of Irish courage to keep going out and trying new things. But I did enjoy it. The only problem was it wasn't what you call
Well, it
lucrative.
sounds like it sounds like you were borrowing from a reporter that I used to admire, when I was in college and everything like that. And it sounds to some degree, even though you were using the ugly angle, that you were borrowing from Hunter S. Thompson. And I was a big fan of Fear and Loathing and all along those lines, where he went into like some uh, political conventions. I think he went to Las Vegas. He was all over the place, but he was doing like the man in the street kind of reporting, because he was definitely immersing himself into the story. So like if he was doing a story on drug lords, he would probably be immersing himself with the drug lords
Right.
and everything like that.
What was the name of his book with the Hell's Angels? That was his big breakout book, right? And yeah, I know Hunter S. Thompson. I have many of his books that I haven't read. Of him. I do.
Yeah, because I know there was fear. I know there was fear. I can't think of the one with the Hells Angels, but I know there was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I think there was Fear and Loathing at the Kentucky Derby, which has been a dream of mine to go to the Kentucky Derby. Even though I'm not that big of a drinker. I mean, I may have an occasional beer and maybe some wines, but I'm definitely not a over drinker and all in that space. But I just thought it'd be good to watch the ladies in their fineries and their hats and everything like that. So that's still on my wish list of things to go do. And I have a couple of friends that actually live in the Louisville area. And then, like I said, there was Fear and Loathing, I think, on the political campaign.
It's May 6th or May 2nd. I think you should go.
Yeah, it is. That's right. It's coming up around the corner and everything.
It's a 10-hour drive for you, right?
Yes, it's probably about a 10-hour drive, but that would mean having, because I don't really drive. I do a lot by mass transit, but even by mass transit or getting there, it would probably be easy to do. But as you observed, I'm very much.
This is the year. This is the year you go, you do your show down there, and you're at the Kentucky Derby. I think you should do it. That's me. That's I'm crazy. So go ahead.
Hey, I like the idea. I might have to see if they'll pay for it, because I know last year they had me, meaning some Pod TV folks, they had me go to a Pod TV conference in one of my favorite cities, and I hadn't been there for a decade, because I used to go there a couple of times for the American Black Film Festival and everything like that. But this year, or last year, because I didn't go this year, last year I went for the podcasting conference, because there's a big podcasting conference that involves international, whatever that international hotel is. I think it's called the International, but definitely, but it was fun to be down in Miami, and that was my first time in Miami in a while. I'm still having to get used to the free roaming chickens, because they have a lot of free roaming chickens in Miami. They're just kind of like free roaming.
I was unaware of the free roaming chickens. I heard about the Greek chickens there, but not the free roaming ones.
No, there's just like some chickens there. I think they're just free roaming around that area and everything like that. I think I was going to the hotel, and they were like, I think I saw like the like the parking deck, not the parking deck, but like the parking area where you would park your car, and there was a toll person, and they were like, yeah, they just hang out. So I'm like, okay, free roaming chickens in Miami. So I guess you can get your KFC without getting your KFC, because they're just hanging out there.
Everything's jammy in Miami, free roaming chickens. Come on down and see Mark. Here he is at the podcast fiesta here at the Black Film. Is it called the Black Film Festival? Is that what you called it?
That's the first time I went down to Miami. It was the American Black. Well, actually, it's the second time, because I also worked briefly in the late '80s in the Boca Raton News. So if you know about definitely the Don, the current president, and everything like that. He's oftentimes talking about Mar-a-Lago. Boca Raton was like the high ritzy area as well. There was Deerfield and Delray, where I lived at, but Boca Raton, which is where the newspaper was kind of like one of them ritzy rich areas, kind of like Beverly Hills or West Palm, and a number of other places that were there. And I remember
Gables, is that a place? Coral Gables, is that a place in Miami area?
Coral Gables is another one. Boca Raton is the one that's also known as the mouth of the rat and everything like that. I knew I was in a different zone when I was there. I was only there for a few months doing like a limited reporting gig and everything like that. But when you go to cover a high school, and you go to the parking lot, because it was me and the photographer. The photographer was his car and everything like that. But you go to the parking lot, and you notice a bunch of Jaguars, Porsches, and Mercedes-Benz and other high-end cars and everything like that. And I remember going to my contact, who was the teacher at the time, and I was going like, hey, y'all must get paid really well and everything. And they were like, what parking lot did you go to? And I was like, what the parking lot you told me to? Parking lot 8, we'll call it, and everything like that. They were like, that was the student parking lot. I'm like, okay, I'm not in Houston anymore because I grew up in a rural area and was born here in Durham. So I knew I was not in Houston anymore, to borrow that phrase and everything. Because I'm going like, okay, yeah, y'all's kids get paid a lot. They just get fancy cars.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me a Jurassic story where all of a sudden you're being chased by an alligator and had a zigzag so it wouldn't get you. But Florida's definitely a different place.
No, it's totally a different place, and there's no doubt about that and everything. What's the best film that you have really enjoyed being a part of? Because you are an actor and you've been doing comedy and everything like that. And I'm also curious to know who some of the comedians that you admire are. Because as I'm hearing you, I'm hearing a little bit of Robin Williams, and I'm hearing a little bit of maybe even some Richard Pryor and others as well. But I was wondering who are some of the comics that you admire and some of the shows that you've really been involved in that you really enjoyed.
Well, the ones that influenced me the most, you may not even believe. Like, I really enjoy Bob Newhart. I think his early stand-up was so brilliant. His storytelling is he's Bob Newhart. I also really enjoy Norman. He's extremely funny, and it's just their stories with raw energy. I'm always a big fan of Robin Williams. I always get so excited when I watch because I go, Richard Pryor wrote this with Elmo. And I think that's just one of my favorite parts of Richard Pryor's journey. Like, not just because I like the movie, his rawness and Mel talked about how he brought so much to the table, and it's those actors are. I obviously enjoy Carlin. I like the words. Modern comics. I don't know. I try not to watch them. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a relic.
No, there's nothing wrong with being a relic. And by the way, I just looked it up. Wikipedia is a wonderful thing.
I think Bill Burr.
So I looked it up.
I do enjoy Bill Burr a lot. I get a kick out of watching. He does the show, the Price is Right, the Family Feud.
Family Feud, yes, he's hilarious.
What is his name? He's got a name.
He does have a name, and it's come to me in a second because he's very good, and he's been doing Family Feud for a while and everything. Because he does.
Anyway, he makes.
It'll come. Yeah, he's definitely hilarious.
There was another question you asked me prior to my comments. You said something.
No, I was going to find a person in Family Feud, but by the way, I was just looking it up because make sure that I wasn't making it up because it was only last year. But they said Miami is home to a thriving population of wild and backyard chickens, which have become both a cultural symbol and a notable feature of the city's urban landscape. So wild roosters, hens, and chicks are commonly seen throughout Miami, particularly in neighborhoods like Little Havana, Little Haiti, Wynwood, Hialeah, and downtown. So I think the International is in the downtown area and everything like that. So I was not making it up. The wild chickens do literally roam around there.
That's too bizarre to make up. You wouldn't make that up. Let's think about. So those are the comics I like. You asked me a question though prior to that.
And I'm trying to remember what it was and everything. We were trying to figure out the family.
I'll remember when we watch the rerun, and I'll answer it. I'll mail it to you because I thought I had a good answer for that one.
Yeah, because I'd ask you about who your influences were, and all along those lines, and definitely who is some of the roles that you've been in that you really were proud of, that's your own roles. That's the other question I ask you.
I think the most proud role I've ever been in. I can't believe I'm going to say this. There's two of them. One I believe I'm going to say. The other one. It's Shakespeare's. I got to play Bottom in A Nice Summer's Dream, and I'm not a Shakespearean actor. I don't read Shakespeare, but I spent a lot of time and effort to do it. And the reason the woman who cast me, she was, you can do this, Walter, because it's prose. It's not Sonic. You're going to do it. I'm like, okay, and it was challenging. What was nice is the compliments I got, and things like I've never seen anyone like. It wasn't that backhanded compliment, like I've never seen anyone do Shakespeare like that. But I've had like the people would come and go, my dad just can't take his eyes off. He thinks you're the most fun on that stage he's ever seen in a Shakespeare show. He's normally asleep. So those were compliments. I enjoyed the idea of getting the lines down, bringing my own energy to it, and really embracing that. That was a lot of fun. The second one that I'm really proud of was a show that I played a gentleman named Steve and a play called Kitchen Witches. And that's where I really got to use listening to a whole new level. And the laughs that came were so strong based on my responses. And at one time, two other actresses that were on stage told me that they said, they were upset because I was getting the laugh. And we had this like Jesus meeting with the director. Rah, 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 rah. And, you know, he's upstaging. And the director said to me, "Where are you standing?" I'm standing in that corner that you told me to stand. Are you moving from that spot? So I'm not moving from that spot. And what are you doing? A live character on stage right here. And he looked at the ladies carrying you, people that he's paying attention to. Because without him, it's good job, Walter. So that was a moment where I wasn't overacting, underacting. I was listening, and that I was proud of that. I was definitely proud of that moment and being validated by bringing laughs by not. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So I am proud.
That
of that
makes
moment.
sense. That sounds a very proud moment and everything like that. Is there a role that you wish that you had, even if it's a role that you can't play now? I know that I was watching, and there have been several people that have played the role, but I was watching Maya Rudolph, and she was, of course, on Saturday Night Live, and she was on, I think it was Stephen Colbert, and she was talking about her mom, Minnie Riperton, who I've been a big fan of, and all along those lines. But she's now doing Oh Mary, which is about Mary Todd Lincoln and everything like that. And apparently she's very glad to be doing that role there in New York City. But is there a role that you wish that you had? Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't exist, and everything like that, because we do know that there's some roles that probably can never be recaptured.
Well,
so I don't know that
my first sarcasm answer was any role of John Holmes. I don't think I asked for it, which I think was funny because that's a penis joke. But realistically, what would be a I well that I wasn't cast in?
Mm-hmm. That you wish you were casting. It could be an old role. It could be something like Lawrence of Olivier. We think we mentioned that earlier, or something that was way back in the day, like even It's a Wonderful Life.
I don't remember the name of the show. I actually did get but I was in this. I auditioned for this play. And I can't remember the name of the play, but it was about Ganesh, I guess the Indian god. And to make a long, convoluted story short, it was probably one of the best cold reads I ever had. And what happened was I started reading it, and it starts saying things like "I'm a god," and as I'm reading it in real time, I'm like realizing I'm a god, and I get to dance on picnics, starting to have really fun with it, and I'm playing with it. And the director was like, or the boss, that was one of the, and I said, I know, I felt it. It really was real. It was really a good performance. And so the next day, we don't want them to use Indian descent to play the position because of the times or something like that. I said, what are you talking about? And my answer was, did you never see Sellers play in The Party? He's not Indian. It's still funny. If you want funny, then just be funny. He's a god. He can look like anything. But that was a role that I really wish I would have had. But in the sense of like all-time role, no, my all-time role will come. Whatever that role may be, I'll identify with it. I don't need to reenact anyone else's business. I'm doing myself. I was blessed.
You mentioned being the
what?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The best comment I ever got, and this isn't a humble brag. I got to play with old retired, and you're not retired as an actor, but they were all equity actors in their 70s and 80s, and they did it. They did Death of a Salesman, something light and fun. And we rehearsed it. I learned a lot. Because I was on at that point. I was on stage every day on 3 different shows. for about 9 months. So I was a stunt, and I was exposed to that. But after the show, this English teacher came up. She goes, I've seen that show 1,000 times. And I'm like, yeah. And she says, I've never seen once again, I've never seen anyone do Biff like you do. I said, oh. She goes, you actually love Willie. And I go, yeah, he's my dad. I always see that he's angry at their dad. You actually got another level I've never seen before. How did you do that? I said, because my father, Willie. I was raised by this man. I know it's just different. It's just because I'm yelling at him, I'm yelling at him because of this. I can't give him what he wants. And she's like, and that was, she said a couple other things. I'm not going to mention them. We'll say off camera because it sounds it's too much the word I'm looking for. It's too, like, not so good. But it was, I was like, really? She goes, yeah. I'm like, all right, later. Now, what happened after that? I had to start selling cars. Another story. But it was
You had
very
to go back to car selling.
Right, and her father was Willie. He's the one who played Willie. And I learned anyway. It was an interesting. It was a very one thing I have learned from stage. And this was a lesson that you don't get on film. So I'm on stage and I Saturday night performance. House is packed. The woman who plays my mother, the wife, comes in drunk, like just hammered. And she comes at me, and she doesn't make brains, and I'm improv, like how to make it work. The hat falls off, and I spin it 3 times on my hat, I put it on her head, I turn it around, I put it off, and I get an applause break. That's always nice. At the end of the show, it wasn't like the crowd roared and I came out. It was bitching. It was a moan, right? But the next day we have and I'm acting, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. And so at the intermission, the director, the producer comes in, and they got these big old grins. And they go, how's it going out there, Walt? Said, not too good. Oh, really? It's not going really well? I can't understand what's happening. I won't put the curse word. He said, you're floating on stage. You're not even present. You're having outer bodies. You're running around. I don't even know what you're screaming at, right? And then he stopped. He hung on me. And he goes, what happened last night was a miracle. It'll never happen again. And I get really mad. You mean no one will understand? You're missing it, Walter. That moment in your life will never happen. You're trying to recreate it. Yeah. Wow. We do the same lines every night. We do the same blocking every night, but you can never recreate that. And I just stopped, and I was like, how many times have I tried to recreate yesterday? How many times have I got stuck in that motion? Anything that's not as human, where either on a relationship, or let's look at that part's gone. You need to make a different way of doing this. Relationships with friends. Well, when we were young, we used to go here and do this. We don't do that anymore, man. Right. And so it's probably that's where I think acting and playing, and we opened with them. Right. And that's where you get to learn lessons. That's where you get to learn lessons. And goes, you're playing that this way, and there's an actual deep. I don't know if everyone thinks, but those are the moments. You're doing this, and you're doing it so bizarre. Someone comes up to you and goes, "You can't redo yesterday," and that's a lesson. So that's what I don't even know. You can't. I mean, I could tell you it, you can identify with it, and experience that you have. There's people who listen to the podcast. I've had an experience like that, and they'll remember it. Get them out of that rut because, or trying to slam themselves into something that doesn't belong the right way. And that's why keynotes speak. Little anecdotes. People come after me. They go, "I haven't heard that story in a while." It's not my story. It's their story. They can identify. Right. So Like even today, we've had a couple moments. You and I have been thinking about. It reminds me of me going on a trip over here. It reminds me of Hunter S. Thompson. It reminds me of my life, Walter. You remind
Right.
me of the things that you're talking to me. Like, I don't have notes on a phone, but I have no
Yeah.
authority to say. I have a producer. He's like, what do you think? I don't know. It's a dinner party. Apparently, it's more of a romantic, but it's okay.
Goes to dinner party. Sometimes it's more than one people. So sometimes it's just two folks who chit chatting and everything like that. But yeah, but it's really no set format except for us learning and the audience learning as well and everything. What do you think about? Because I've had friends that are big fans of it, some that are not big fans of it because of non-traditional casting. Because I think you mentioned being either Irish or Italian. I can't remember which one it was and everything like that. And sometimes both of those folks are stereotyped as mafia folks. I'm thinking about like Jersey Shore and things like that. But then I've also had friends that have literally done like African American versions of Cinderella and things along those lines. But I just wanted your take on non-traditional casting, where somebody is playing a role that isn't the role that they are thinking about. I mean, you do not look Moorish, so I don't know that you could necessarily play Othello, but maybe you could play Othello and everything like that. So, what do you think of non-traditional casting?
Torn down the middle. Torn down the middle. And I'll tell you why. I think sometimes it's fun and it should be done. To do. And sometimes I think it's a political. So if it's done for a political stuff, I think it's garbage. Because I don't think it's earnest. But I think if you're just the casting director, you just go, you want to try something crazy today? Look at this guy. This guy's just magic. Or this woman is just magic. But maybe we should have a man play Jonah Buck. Or maybe we should have a woman play Hitler. That'd be fun. But just something ridiculous, right? And if it works, awesome. But you can smell it. You can smell the disingenuous, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know how else to describe it, but I am a fan of experimenting of different things. But at times, I do go in with an attitude. I'm a human, I'm a human. I have faults.
No, we all have faults and everything like that, but I'm wondering because there's a big thing that goes on in Scotland. I know that there was people, including a guy that used to be here on this network, that I think went once or twice and everything like that. But it's called the Fringe Festival, and some people are very much excited about it. They love going to Scotland because it's got all kinds of weird productions that are all out there and everything like that, which is why they call it the Fringe Festival. So I was wondering if you ever done any Fringe work, and if so, what is your thoughts around Fringe theater?
I've done Fringe before. Fringe is you're going in on. That's right. I've done Fringes, and I had a kid talking about how to put condoms on bananas, and it's fun. I like that stuff. That stuff's that's fun. I just think when it becomes here's how you know you're watching. In the opening scenes, it's always it's a college film. Okay, you know you're most likely dealing with some type of I just able to express myself. I'm going to change the world if there's some type of sexual abuse or like finding myself. It's like Fringe to me. It's real, and go to the other way. It's the ridiculous. I had a woman once come up to me, the important movement of comedy, so I celebrate the ridiculous. That's different. That's Fringe. Well, just telling me that, I have trauma. Yeah, no kidding. I don't want to watch it for 2.5 hours. I don't want to watch it for 5 minutes. Okay? I don't need to hear about, I was at this place like the other day, like this actor when you had a daughter going to college, who's now going to tell us her mom who was getting married, Audrey, who wanted to be a policeman. That was the other character. The mom was what was it? OCD. Her love language was micromanagement. Apparently, it was up once in her life, and the man that she loved, her in college, made a baby. All in a 10-minute play. Pick one of them, man.
That was a 10-minute play?
Yeah, I was like, just pick one, man. I can't. Everything was. It should have been called. It was like obsessive behavior is my love language. It should have been called My Life Sucks. Watch it. I mean, I was just like, this. It wasn't that it was horrible. It just was taking too much. So I'm so deep. I know you're deep. I got it. You're deep. You're the deepest thing I've ever seen. You are a cup of coffee so deep that it never runs to the end. I mean, if Metastopolis would sell your soul to make coffee, you would pour it and no one would have to come back. They would always feel quenched of the caffeine. But come on, man, slow it down. And that's great. You get to express yourself in ridiculous ways. You could probably do it in the basement. You weren't on your phone. Maybe you would have got that out of your system.
I'm thinking that 10 minutes is too long for that kind of psychoanalysis and everything like that, because that sounds like that would need to be like almost a marathon, like a 2-hour play or a 3-hour play or something like that. But to do that in 10 minutes, that just seems like you would walk out with a headache and everything. And I like watching movies that get you to think. Like I loved watching Cat People when I was in college, and even some of the other ones that got you to think, like the X-Files in the 90s and 2000s and everything like that. So I don't mind thinking, play and everything like that, but I'm going like that's too much thinking if you got to do that much analysis.
You see the way I pulled it back with the play? Played in the basement and your kids you wouldn't have to make plays like that. See, go outside, play, have some fun. If you're gonna
go outside, have some fun, but
do it in the basement.
Definitely got to have some fun in life, but that's just too much. That psychoanalysis and everything. One of the other things that they say about actors, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't know if you're married or not married and everything like that, but there's this notion that actors, as they get older, they can have these 30-year-old or 25-year-old young ladies and still have children, and all along those lines. I'm 63, be 64 in July, and don't have any children of my own. Like I said, I've got my 2 nephews, the oldest going to college. The next one will be following him next year, because the oldest one wants to go into pre-law. The one behind him, I think, wants to go into engineering and everything like that. But what is your thoughts when you hear these people that are like telling, particularly the male actors, that that you haven't made because you can court and deal with all of these young starlets that are out there?
I don't even know how to feel that. I'll feel it like this. If you need to feel like a man, not a woman, then go to therapy, I guess. But if you actually have some type of bond relationship with someone it's a stage of life, I don't know, man. I don't even know. I can't even do that. I've dated women younger than me. I've dated women a lot older than me. And I'll tell you about the older women. The older women, my sister said, this is what my sister said. I said, I dated a woman that was 15 years old. She was in her 60s. And when we would go places, people would go, "It's so nice." I'm like, "No, that's not cool." The point I'm telling you the story is this. My sister said, I go, "She's not too bad. Well, she's going to be smarter because she's older. She's seen people." And she was right. Eventually, it's things that just crazy. She told you, you're out mad. I don't want to get into it's. You need to know what you're doing between 2 individual people in agreement. But I don't want to be an actor so I can date 25 women. I can sell cars that date 25 women. Be an actor at times because I enjoy what I do. I don't think it spoils is someone wants to sleep with you because you're famous. You don't want to be around that person. You don't want to be around. You don't want to be around that. If someone wants to be around you because they think you have a different mind, something different that they have to talk about, and you expect yourself physically, that's a whole different relationship. So if you're looking at those things, then have fun. But if it's just that I can give you a nice dinner and you can drive a cool car, I'm not into that. But that's other people need that. Other people aren't me. Other people need stuff to make people talk to them. I'm rad. You're rad. Most people don't need nonsense to get a woman to talk to them, or a man to talk to them, or the same sex to talk to them. They just get to be themselves. And I think that's more important. If you're at that stage where you're just using, and now I'm being judged, but if you're at, I'm not using the word pity. You're better than that. You're better than the shit you have. You're better than taking shit. That's the baseline, like that. But I'm assuming that they can talk. That there's something that's so unique that they both get to learn something about. Time is short. It's the most valuable asset.
Time is definitely a valuable asset, everything like that. You mentioned it earlier because you have one, and definitely that's how we connected and everything like that. But how important? Because I remember the old TV show about the agent's life and everything like that. I'm trying to think of the name of the TV show, but it's not coming to me. Entourage and everything like that. But I was just wondering how important are agents in your own life and to the acting world and everything like that. Because I know you mentioned having some people in that space in your own life, but how important are those agents to you, and how important do you think they are to actors in general?
I think they're important. I'll tell you what. I started acting, and I was going to back myself, and I opened up a talent agent, talent agent, a SAG agent, and that's a hard business. It's a hard business to sell. And so, if you ever, is it a Woody Allen movie? I forget the name of it, but if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's probably the greatest. It's one of my favorite Woody Allen movies, and I don't even know the name of it. I think it's called. Please, it's a Woody Allen movie. Black and white. He's a talent agent. We'll get to the point of the story is he has all the riffraff people that he tries to get gigs for. It's really funny. So the question was, are they important? Yes, because Danny Rose is the name of the movie. Thank you. You get a chance, watch it. It'll change your life. Yes, because everyone's got a skill set. And that is, I don't want to have to go to a party. I want you go to the party, have a nice time. If you want to, that's your life. Go to the party. Tell them I'm cool. I'll show up. It's not that schmoozing isn't important in life, but I don't want to. I just want to be who I am. And so, yeah, there's an element that's circled around it. I'm not meaning to it, but I don't want to engage in it. Those things are necessary. Plus, you're your worst negotiator. I'm an actor, and you want to be in Star Wars? I'll give you $25 your life. Yeah, I'll do it. And it's $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'll sell my soul cheap. Yeah, let's go. Even though I think with $1 billion, very rare that most of us have that bravado that we're like walking. Stallone had it. Stallone's an animal. Like, if you let him think about this, he writes Rock in a week, right? Maybe 2 urban legends. Right? As the movie sold, they're going to green light it. I'm the head. I'm Rocky. No, you're not. I did Lords, the King of the Lords, or whatever. You've been in a couple of different movies up to this point. Like, yeah, but you're not in it. The movie won the Academy Award. That's knowing who you are, what you do. And that's probably why agents and things like that are important for high level and mid-sport. They're not important, but I think the funniest thing I've ever seen, not ever seen, but I really had a different appreciation for Tom Cruise when I saw the movie Tropic Thunder. And I was like, that's not acting. He knows that. He put every agent he ever met. And I'm like, he's had a hard life. That's a tough to run around. You know what I mean? Like, that's not easy. That's the type of people that keep those people away from you. I don't know everything. I know that. But the agents, you like that agent for me? Do you have a 25-year-old girl who wants to go out with me? Oh, you're asking me these questions? Do you have a 25-year-old agent who wants to go out with me?
Oh, that's just the general questions that are popping up in my head because I have that kind of mind and all along those lines. But I did have another question that was similar to what you just mentioned. It comes up on this show quite often, which is this notion, because I know that one of the founders of the network is of the idea that, acting and anthropology and other careers are careers that don't really have a aesthetic value is kind of the way that Nick would put it and everything like that. But he's also part of the reason that him and Kim created this network is this notion that a lot of people don't have business acumen and business sense and everything like that. So at what point did you realize that show business is a business and that you had to learn some of the business aspects of it as well. And do you just have your accountants and other people handle that, or have you had to learn some of those tricks yourself? Because I do know a number of people that are still in that notion of not wanting to deal on the business side of the business, even though it is called show business for a reason.
No, actually, I never felt that I wasn't a business. I came from a background. I have a degree in business. That never was surprising to me. What was surprising to me is how to get business done, how to get paid to tell them a job. That was hard. So it's not the fact that I didn't understand it was business, but it. I guess what I'm saying is you got what product you're selling, and that's where that. If you start representing yourself, now all of a sudden you're getting advice about a guy who says you have that line. You know, I like. All of a sudden I get people telling you how you're. If you have a good agent or a good representation of who you are, as a character, who you are as you do what you do, and I will help support you the best you can. Take notes. You're not manageable. It's like I don't have to. Not every win do I have to change to. You got someone in your corner that goes, "Yes, you're cutting down or you're managing." That's what you have with people. They believe in who you are. You're the product that's going to help you become where you want to go. That's what I'm on right now. I have a very strong staff around me. Believes in me. I make them fucking best, but the reality is things that are just golden, and we're going to use that. So that
makes a lot of sense.
And that's what I mean. But it's not that I'm deluded that I've done the things that she's doing, and she's like, "It's hard." Yeah, it's hard. Fuck. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'd rather be a coal miner than. I'd rather, at least I know what I'm doing. You're talking with algorithm on a computer that want to make sure that someone looks at us and goes, "Hey, look, I got a cat." That's a hard job.
Yep. That is a very hard job.
Not any idiot. Hey, I got a cat.
Yeah, just really quickly, and we get ready to wrap up shortly and everything along those lines. But I did notice that you have these quotes behind you, and I'm a big fan of quotes. I used to do the cryptic quotes regularly and everything like that. So I was wondering, what are these quotes behind you? Because I saw some artwork and everything, but I think that right behind you is like this one that looks like a quote or everything like that. But what is those quotes, or am I misreading it?
Quilts.
Oh, quilts. That's even better.
What's this quilt? So that quilt. So if you're going to hieroglyphically, one says "make your bed." The other one, when I look at it, says "eat your vegetables." One over here says "always be polite to your mother." And the last one says "always say thank you, no matter if it's bad."
Okay. Who did the quilts? Because I mentioned the Habitat Center, the Cultural Arts Center that I work at, and we actually have a quilt circle. They were actually just meeting last Saturday, and they do regular amazing quilts and everything like that. Some of these are very intricate quilts that they do on a regular basis with entire storylines and everything like that. So is quilt something that runs in your family, that you have friends, or are you just an admirer of quilts?
We support the Children's Society of Guatemala, and I don't know. It's just inspired them. I think that's unfair. It spoke to me.
It spoke to you. You walk into the store, they were speaking to you. You were like, "That is speaking to me. I've got to get that particular."
I have to have that on my wall. I can't bring my wall here. I'll take that with me and put it on my wall.
So you were like, I've got to have that quote wherever I go. So if you go on set, that quote is following you.
I wish I had a better story. That one doesn't have a story. I can show you all my books. They have stories, but sometimes the things on the wall don't.
Well, what are some of the books that you're reading now that are really impressing you? You mentioned Ayn Rand earlier and everything, but who are some authors that you are really enthralled by, and all along those lines? I know some people are enthralled by.
I'm halfway through Tolstoy's War and Peace, and what motivated me that was Sam Malone from Cheers. You read it for Diana that week. It's taken me so far 6 weeks, but I like it, and Tolstoy has a lot of comparison of different ideas. Does one man make a difference in decisions, and that's basically. I'm actually right now just finished, Plato's Dialogues in Mythology. And the reason being, my next book, and I'm starting to the public. The reason being is the next book I'm reading is Popper, um, and he has a book that's called The Open Society and he's a philosopher. And a lot of these philosophers, I'm doing a lot of philosophy lately, is because of how people interact. And I want to know what these hardcore ethoses are. And there's some camps that say Plato is bad and it creates unstable reality, dualities of humanity. And others say that Aristotle put back together with logic. So these are two opposing camps. And I'm like everyone. I probably sometimes it's like, yeah, well, I like that idea. I like the discipline of this idea. So that's how I got to the Antiquity. A year ago, I read Ulysses by as of a challenge because someone said wait, I started that thing. And I do enjoy. But those are the books I read. So that's what a lot of dystopia. I started buying more and more books because of my own paranoia that the books were going away. And what I mean by that is a lot of publications are now you can get most things on demand. When things are digital, the are no longer valid because and I don't want books that actually. So I call it purist, call it. I want my books to say 80. I want to know if they're in 50. So I know why I wrote this. So that's.
It's interesting you said that because I had a. It's interesting you say that because I had a conversation earlier today on the show and we were talking about Encyclopedia Britannica, and some people don't even know what an encyclopedia is these days because of what's going on with modern technology and everything's on Google and the various other internet platforms and everything like that. But yeah, I do remember encyclopedias, had them in college, and I think I even had experience of even selling them there for a hot minute and everything along those lines. But yeah, some folks are going like, what's an encyclopedia?
Well, the Encyclopedia Britannica series that I have is called The Great Books. And that's the 54 volumes. It starts with basically the Iliad all the way to Darwin. And that was released in 1950. A remake also republished in 82 and 88. That nonsense. But in 90, they added another book. So Adler, Adler is one of the, that's talk about that real and you speaking to the philosopher or the writer or the artist own words, not in a revived you think needs to be old. And that's where I think has been erratic. Facts do I can I have to watch cartoon and I want to watch another episode. Tiger King. And I like Tiger King. I'm mocking myself. For me, it's I don't want it to happen. I want to know what's in my brain. And very Canadian way or Descartes, I want to empty everything out of my head, my ability to do myself the things that I understand. What I don't understand, well, what I don't understand can barely fit and that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's the most unique thing you've had happen in your entertainment life and everything like that? One of our regulars on the network, he's actually generally with me on the news show and everything like that, actually had the privilege, because he's a Mensa member and he used to write for Jimmy Kimmel and all along those lines. But Rick Rosner had the privilege of actually suing a game show and winning. Now, he didn't win a lot of money because, you know, game shows are usually run by major corporations. So even though he won, because he found an answer that was thought to be wrong, but it was actually truthful, that it was actually right and everything like that. So he did win the case, even though in the long run, he probably didn't win that much money, because then you'd have to take on Disney or whoever owns those shows and everything along those lines. So like I said, he won, but didn't get a lot of revenue. But he did get the recognition that he won in that sense and everything like that. So what's one of the weirdest things that has happened to you in Hollywood? I'm just using him as an example because I know that story because I've known Rick now for about 5 years.
What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened?
Mm-hmm. In the Hollywood landscape.
Nothing comes to mind. I think all the stories I have, I don't know. I'm sure when I'm driving home after this, I'm sure something like weird happened. But at the moment, I'm up the line.
So you can't think of like I'm thinking of like I said, I mentioned.
I think the most fun thing I had at Marcus Allen. That was a fun day. I saw him. I said, "Hey, you're Marcus Allen." He goes, "Yes, I am." And I said, "I bet it's fun to be Marcus Allen." It is. No, I said, "I bet it's rad to be Marcus Allen." It is rad to be Marcus Allen. I said, "You know what, Marcus Allen?" He goes, "I go, rad to be Walter Ruskin." He goes, "Why is that?" Rad to be Marcus Allen. He goes, "You want to know why also it's rad to be Marcus Allen?" He goes, "Why?" Because I met Walter Ruskin. So that was kind of a moment in my life.
That was a good moment. I like that moment. Seattle's got a lot of great athletes. Y'all have the Seahawks and y'all have the Supersonics and a number of other places as well. But I was just wondering how much of a sports advocate are you? Because like I said, I'm over here by Duke University. Central has had some success in the sports lane as well, not the kind of championships. I think they did win one in Division II in basketball, but definitely they've had some success in other sports, including track and tennis and other things. But I was just wondering, what is your, because you mentioned being an active person, so what is your own sports regimen?
Well, my own sports is I run, swim, jump, jog, all that kind of stuff as an adult. I used to be more into sports. I am writing a paper called Orwell Baseball. The days that Orwell would cry about baseball, I'll get a copy of it when it's a cute little head op of catchers going to say if there's strikes or not anymore. I believe that baseball is an actual mirror of Americana, and I take it of it. And I think we should be leery that we don't trust things to call balls and strikes because it's just that's the thesis. That's the thread through the paper. But I do like sports. And if you don't think it's important, look what happened. You got to be able to help hate your neighbor for something besides the color of the skin. Otherwise, people go nuts. I mean, think about it. Think what happened after like 4 months of no sport. People start turning on each other. Just hate their city, hate their mascot, and go on. So I think sports are an important part of aggression that is important, and civility in humanity.
Yes, sports is a very important part of the stability and everything like that. Like I said, I'm here in Durham, and Durham is the home of the Durham Bulls, which is, of course, has that Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon storyline and everything like that. And it was based on some
nice Hey, listen, I don't mean to cut you short, but I gotta go home.
No, I'm going to cut it off as well because I was going to say that generally I try to go about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, but there's questions I get all my guests to answer, and definitely if you could, and I've we kind of alluded to it, tell folks how they can reach you. And one of the things I get all my guests to do, whether it's a one-on-one or whether it's a multiple guests, is I give them a chance to give their message of positivity. And you've been giving a lot of positivity today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully we can get you back on another show as well. Maybe even have Rick come on one of these shows so you can meet Mr. Rosner, who I alluded to. He has a show called Naked at Night, which is him arguing, and he's fairly liberal, with a conservative guy that was his father was one of the creators of Pink Panther. And then they have like they might have a model that they're modeling and painting as well. And then they also have, because Rick's been a model as well. And then they might have a troubadour or some other people coming in making comments and everything. So it's kind of a variety show meets the news and everything like that. I think it was Point meets Laughing and everything like that. But they do that about once a month. They do that about once a month and everything like that, and all along those lines. But Jeff, if you have a message of positivity, and hopefully we can get you back, because I want you to get back to the rest of your day as well.
Sure. To find me, you can find me at Walter at walterruskin.com. Yeah, walterruskin.com. You can call us if you need help with resumes and training at area 619-930-9500. You can also follow me on Walter Under Pressure. That's on Instagram, and that's how you can find it. Or you can Howard Deal and scream out the window. I'm mad as hell. And we get excited. With a positive message. The brain is your friend. Anyone who tells you differently.
Yeah, the brain is your friend. I like that positive message, and that's a very, very positive message and everything like that. I'm going to go out with a video that I go out with everybody, and I'd love to hear your thoughts just on this last question, which is, it's a video about education, and there's honoring both not the teachers, but also the support staff, whether that's the janitor, whether that's the cafeteria worker, whether that's the guidance counselor. My mom was a guidance counselor and everything like that. So I'm just wondering, before I play this video from Oklahoma, because that's who created this, was this particular gentleman from Oklahoma, where he was honoring teachers and their support staff. What is a teacher that impacted you in your life, and who are some of the folks that impacted you in that way? And then I'll play this video, and that'll get us all out of here.
3 teachers. Sister Seaton, a 3rd grade teacher. She let me know that everything would be okay and stay away from the weird church. My next teacher was Mrs. Blackman. She was I had in Las Vegas, Arizona. She was an ex-Marine who taught social studies. And she taught me about, I guess, the tenacity to live. The final person who taught me obedience was Mr. Viewers at Huntington Beach High School. Thought about good laws, bad laws, and what a civil responsibility of the human being is. And always to keep your mind sharp, because someone's going to tell you that they have to have heart. And those are the people that have helped shape my world.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing this video and everything like that. I still got to get to San Diego. A friend of mine used to be a major LinkedIn influencer that lived there, but then he divorced his first wife and is now, I think, either married or with his second wife or a second lady friend and everything like that. But he's now living in Florida, that being Brian Shulman and everything like that. But I'm a big fan of San Diego and need to get back to San Diego because I was trying to get there when he was there and everything like that. But I haven't been to any parts of California, even though my good friend Ronnie was trying to bring some film school and film education to North Carolina, which is where he's originally from. He has been in California for about 20 years. I think he's been in Los Angeles proper and everything like that. But I keep saying I'm going to get out to the West Coast, even though I've got tons of friends there. The furthest I've been is Vegas so far. So it might be like you're telling me that I need to get to the Kentucky Derby. I probably need to get out to California as well.
The Kentucky Derby, you got till May 2nd. When we come to San Diego, give us a call. You got our number, 619-930-9500, and we'll go out together and walk the time of our lives.
Sounds good. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully we can do this again in the near future. But right now, let's get on out of here with this particular video about education from Oklahoma and everything like that. But thoroughly enjoyed our casual conversation, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. But I definitely learned a lot about your philosophy and your life thoughts and everything like that. So glad to have you on, and hopefully we'll get you on a future edition as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. You have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Tuesday.
I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop. I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop.
I want to thank everyone for coming to the 2020 TAF Awards. This was a show like no other, people. This is the Grammys for dignitaries, educators, and support staff around the state of Oklahoma and worldwide. We cannot do this without the support of the people. So we thank you, I thank you, for being such a dedicated supporter to this movement for the Teachers Appreciation Foundation. I thank you.
I won't fold, I won't drop.